here's the question. How does a trombone work? How does any brass instrument work? Well, I'm gonna tell you. Okay, so how do brass instruments work? The question really is, how do you play different notes? And there's the obvious one, so let's start there. You can move the slide, or you can press down valves. And what happens when you press down valves on a trumpet, or a tuba, or a French horn, or euphonium? You're adding a little bit of tubing. And so each valve has a specific amount of tubing that you're adding to it. Just like when I move the slide, I'm adding that length to the tube. But you can only play so many notes by doing that. If you're counting, that's 7, and I'm already at the end of the slide. 7 notes. That's it? Well, with a trumpet or a baritone or tuba, you can play 7 different notes with 3 valves, or 7 different notes with 7 slide positions. Great. How do you play more than that? How does this work? Because that's what we knew. We knew that already. You can press down valves, you can move the slide. That's only 7 notes. So, my friend Ben made me a guitar. I guess he didn't really make it for me. He found it on the side of the road and then strung it up chromatically. It's really weird. So, you know what a normal guitar is supposed to sound like? This one sounds like this. This top string here is going to represent first position or open valve, okay? And we said there's 7 different slide positions and 7 different valve combinations. Guitar only has 6 strings, so we're going to pretend the lowest one isn't there, but it's still just first position, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Or if you're a valved instrument player or want to understand that, that is open, second valve, first valve, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, and then again there is a 1, 2, and 3 or a 7 slide position that is non-existent because this is a 6-string guitar, not a 7. Okay, so how do you play different notes? You may be like, oh, that's easy. You press down on one of the frets. That's actually not the case here, because that is doing the exact same thing as I have represented with the strings. So when I press down a string, it shortens the length of the string. It's the opposite of a trombone. We lengthen the length of the tube. So let's just pretend I started here, and then I could go down to second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth position. So you can imagine what we've done so far is 1 string and 7 frets. That's the guitar that we've established with the trombone and the trumpet examples. So instead, what we do is play the Overtones series. This is very mathematical. It's the physics of sound. And I'm going to try to not confuse you, because I think it has been explained terribly before, and this should help you visualize it. Inside every sound, we have the note. We call that the fundamental. It is the entire length vibrating. It's the lowest pitch you can hear. It's usually the loudest. It's the one we sing. Do. Okay? So that's our fundamental note. Inside that note, and you may not believe me, is a whole crazy range of other notes. You are hearing it, you just don't know you're hearing it. I have a course on arranging instrumental for strings, brass, and woodwinds, and in it, in the advanced section of the course, I actually show this example of isolating those overtones. Let's actually cut to that so you can actually see exactly the concept I'm talking about, which is inside every sound we have, there's actually a whole bunch of overtones. So if I record in a note, all right, that's a low note. Inside a note like this, any note, in fact, there's the overtone series, okay? So if I pop this open, we see our waveform there. And I'm going to put an EQ on this, okay, which allows us to look at this waveform a little bit better. Okay. And you see how it's not just like one big block, right? It's a bunch of little spikes. Kind of interesting. Now, here's what I gotta tell you. I'm gonna mute this so we could just look at it and not be annoyed by the sound. This right here is called the fundamental. It's the lowest pitch that we play. It's the pitch that we're playing, in fact. So this is what you would call a low B flat, a pedal tone B flat on trombone. And there's this series of overtones that pop out in any pitch, in any sound that you hear. You could drag a chair across the ground and it would squeak, and inside that sound would be the full overtone series. And it's the exact same ratio. It's just physics of sound. So the first one's an octave, and then a fifth, and then a fourth above that, and then a third above that. And it goes in this very specific order, and you can actually literally see it here. And the ratio between each of these is exactly the same with every sound. But what I want you to understand is inside this low note that I played, inside that sound is all of those overtones. And without the overtones, it doesn't sound like that sound. Because what you're hearing, what you associate with this low note is the low note, but it's all of the overtones. And a lower note has more overtones that are in the audible spectrum. It's in what you can hear. I'm going to isolate just the fundamental, just the lowest one. You can hear it now, right? Here's our fundamental. An octave above. And look, there's nothing in between. And there's the octave. And then all of a sudden, clear as day, there's another pitch. And we can keep going. All the way up. This sound has all of these notes inside of it. All of these little spikes. A different note. Let's see if I can pull that out of this sound. Hold on. All right, so this is going to be the root, fifth, root, and third right there. There you go. See? That's inside this sound. I played one low note, and this chord, this beautiful chord, is inside that. It was there the whole time. Okay, back to me. Hello. Again, that course is available if you want it. I'll link it below. It's also courses.classicaltrombone.com. But here we're back at our chromatic guitar. So here's how you play the overtones. You use math. There is an overtone for every equal division of a string or a length of tube. But in this case, it'll be a string. So what is the largest subdivision you can have of a whole and have equal parts? It's half. Where is the halfway point from the vibrating surface, which is here and here? It is right here. So if I put my finger there, I can press it down. It plays an octave. But if I just hover my finger over, and you've probably seen guitarists play this like this, you can actually mute the fundamental note and just hear the overtone at that point. And that sounds like this. It's kind of beautiful. And that, what we're hearing, is the overtone halfway between this fundamental. One half of that is an octave up. From half, the next largest subdivision of this is thirds. And so I made this little piece of paper. This is our fancy piece of paper. And I have markings on it. So this is half the length. And you can see it goes from here to here is half. And then I could go down here and it reaches that same point halfway up the guitar. But I also have a third marked, which is right here. So from the start to here, right there is our third. It's 1/3, and I could go, there's 1/3, there's 2/3, and there's 3/3. So if I just go from the end of the guitar to here, something very amazing is going to happen. It goes up to that completely different note, which is inside, and maybe you can even hear it. Maybe, if your ears are tuned, I can hear it, but it's in there. It's been there the whole time. So 1/2, 1/3. And we can literally do this all the way down to a very, very tiny bit. Now, so we could do a quarter, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, an eighth, a ninth. We could just keep going. I want to show something, though, because we had a third. With a half, there's only one point where that's a half. But with a third, there was another third, wasn't there? We had one here. But we could start at the other end, or start there and go down. And there's another one right here. And so what do you think is going to happen there? It's the same note. Because it's the same harmonic. It's in thirds. It's a very mathematical, satisfying thing. And so now we're going to go to a quarter, which is right here. Of course, there's 4 of them. And that's another octave, because it is exactly half of our first octave. And so what would you say an eighth is? It's another octave up if we cut that one in half again. It gets a lot harder as we go up, but there is our 4th harmonic. And then we cut this into fifths. And that one's right here. Let's just go in order here. We got fundamental, half, third, 4th, 5th. And it's really nice, the naming convention, because that's what we say. That's the 5th harmonic, the 5th overtone, the 5th partial, we call it on trombone. And it's 1/5 of the subdivision of this string. So I think it's really satisfying, easy to remember. Let's keep going if we can. A 6th is going to be right here. You hear it? And as these ratios get higher, you realize they're getting much closer together. Both the pitches are getting closer together and the distance here. So I'm just going to go through and see which ones we can get to pop out. There's a 5th. You hear that one? Da. Put an octave up. That's a 7th. There's the 8th. Remember, that's an octave again. Ba. That's the 9th, which is 1/9. We now have a whole bunch of notes we can play in that first position, or that first string here. So just get that in your ear for a second. Fundamental, 2. Okay, you ready for this? This is 1 full octave lower than what you just heard, but everything else is exactly the same. Fundamental. It's exactly the same ratio, and in fact, in every sound you've ever heard, even my voice right now, it's exactly the same ratio from the fundamental, the vibrating frequency, to every vibration that can go in between. So my vocal folds are actually vibrating at those ratios. So that's helpful, and I hope you understand now how you can get a few more notes out of one slide position. But if we go back to the guitar, we now have other strings, other slide positions, other valve combinations, because here we could only play there's a lot of spaces. There's there's a lot of notes in between there that you can't play. And if you think about the old bugles, like dun da 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 boop 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 boop, that's the space in between because they didn't have valves, they didn't have a slide. So there is this inherent space that we hear in that very early brass music because you couldn't play anything else unless you went really, really high, and then all of a sudden the notes get closer together. But then we added a slide. We added valves. These are, again, represented by the different strings here, going down in half steps. Okay? So now, if you can visualize this, we have the harmonics going up, and we have the slide positions going up. So the pitches can either go up by moving up the slide or up the harmonics. And the notes can go down in pitch by going down the harmonics or down the slide. Okay? So you can actually kind of navigate this in interesting ways where just because the slide is going down doesn't necessarily mean the notes are going down, because you could be going up the harmonics and moving the slide down. And the opposite is true too. Just because the slide's coming in doesn't mean that the notes are going up, because you could be going down the harmonic series. So yes, we have, in this case, 6 different pitches here that it's tuned to, but I can now, if I now I'm doing this just based on my own memory of where notes are played on the trombone, not any knowledge of how to play this guitar in this tuning. So this is my first position, second partial, and then I know that a D is played in 4th position, so that's the 4th string, and I know it's the next partial up. And then I know an F in this arpeggio is played in 1st position on that same harmonic, so I go up here. And then a B flat, the top of that arpeggio, is the next harmonic up from that. And so with this, without knowing how to play a guitar at all, I could play every note just by thinking of where I would play it on a trombone. And any brass player would be able to take this guitar and, knowing where each partial is, be able to play every single note they would need to play, just like they would on their regular instrument. So that is the chromatic guitar. This is one way to visualize it, and I will put little notes on it the next time I do a video about this, so you can actually see and visualize exactly where each of those harmonics are, and you could see me navigate it. I have a friend, Kevin Hicks, who has a different visual representation of this. You can see here he has top to bottom, those are the different harmonics, and then left to right is the 7 slide positions, or 7 different valve combinations. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up by trying to play let's do like a D harmonic minor scale. So I, honest to God, have never done this before and don't know where everything is, so I'm going to have to think through this. But let's see, we start with D in 4th position. A. And then B flat, C sharp, it's really satisfying to just be able to play something because you've practiced it so much and the concepts perfectly equal, and all of your practice is just like already in this new skill. I mean, this is a thing I made up, so it's not really a useful skill, but it is so satisfying. Let's just do a C major scale. So that starts with 6th position. So C is here. Again, it's an octave higher than a trombone. So this is the tuning of a trumpet. Okay, I kind of have to say the notes out loud when I'm doing this. So we get C, D, E, F. Then we go to fourth position, G, A, and then back to fourth. B, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. There you go. So the question now, what trombone piece should I prepare, or etude, just a little short thing, should I prepare on the overtone guitar, the chromatic guitar? Comment below with what you would want me to play. It'll just be like 16 bars of music. I would hope it would be an etude, something a little bit slower. I'm not very virtuosic on it yet. But I just something that everybody's really, really familiar with, so you could literally see how this is happening as it goes. So comment below what you want me to play. Thank you for indulging me. I really hope this is a different way that maybe lets you understand how these brass instruments work, because a lot of it is kind of in our heads and it's hard to visualize and show you exactly what's happening. You think, yeah, you move the slide or you press the valves down and the notes change, but that's one tiny little, there's only 6 here, or 7 on those. That's one tiny aspect of it. It's mostly navigating this overtone series. So I hope that helps. I hope it answers questions you never knew you had. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you to the Patreon donors making these crazy, crazy videos possible and making weird instruments like this. Thank you. If you want to help out, you can go to patreon.com/classical trombone. All sorts of behind the scenes and stuff over there if you do. Other than that, I don't know. Find me on TikTok. I make crazy videos throughout the week. And classical trombone on all the things. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all real soon. Peace.